You're listening to Rockland News. I'm your host, Tom Osa. Thanks for joining us today. And we have on the show this afternoon Supervisor George Holman from the town of Clarkstown. And coming off of some amazing events all throughout the summer, we're going to be checking in with all of our town supervisors across Rockland County and seeing how everything went. A lot of dancing under the stars, a lot of summer concert series. But I wanted to just invite George back on the show and say, how you doing today?
Doing well, Tom. Thanks so much for having me on. Happy to give an update.
Yeah.
As you said, we had a very, very busy summer. But before we even get into some of the summer recap, I just do want to touch base on the horrible shooting that took place
Oh, yeah.
last week out in Minnesota,
Yes, that
and
was awful.
certainly, this is it's about the sixth incidence of a Christian or a Catholic school or church where there's been a shooting in the last couple of years. So it's a little bit of a trend that's a little concerning. While there are
Hmm.
no direct threats that have been made that we're aware of here in New York, there's definitely some things that some alerts we're getting from Homeland Security that we're taking very seriously through the Clarkstown Police. And folks may have noticed that there was a stepped up police presence taking place at all of our houses of worship since this shooting. There's Police have been doing directed patrols, and today with the first day of school as well. We are very proud of the fact that we've got all of our SROs, school resource officers,
Right.
in all the districts within the town. We've got a strong component of school resource officers, but we also do directed patrols where our officers that are in the area cars that are doing patrols around the schools also do stops. So since the shooting, we've been doing that obviously with the churches and with the Catholic and the Christian schools within the town. We do have several Catholic schools, and I know it's been appreciated by those folks. We're doing it to make sure we're putting the resources out there, and we want folks to know that they're safe. And we've also done building audits in the past on a lot of these locations, through our police department and our community policing program, and we'll continue to do that. But I wanted to start off with that just because, again, it's definitely concerning. There have been several shootings at, as I said, both Christian and Catholic schools and churches, six in particular in the last year or so. So we're going to make sure that we're omnipresent and as visible as we possibly can in our area. And like I said, I don't want people to be um, overly concerned because there are no direct threats that are known to us or known to Homeland Security or to any of our state or federal law enforcement partners. But out of an abundance of caution, we are absolutely going to step up our presence in all of these locations.
Without a doubt, yeah. And it's a shame that some people have come to some sort of a conclusion that, for instance, faith and religion is something that should be attacked. And this is just my opinion, but I think unfortunately some of the some of the media kind of plays into that narrative where people that are just fear just faithful communities generally, you think of it over the course of centuries, these faith-based communities are part of the column of progress, at least in terms of recognizing the rights of all in order to be able to live out good quality lives. And I think that's baked very deeply into the Constitution with our Bill of Rights. And
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
shame we have to protect these institutions, with security, but that's part of the framework these days, unfortunately.
Well, Tom, I mean, it's interesting. So when you think about it, unfortunately, we've had periods of time, obviously, with anti-Semitism. We've had periods of time in our country with anti-Catholic bigotry,
Yeah,
anti-Christian, bias. In fact, it was interesting. The first Catholic ever to run, for president was Al Smith.
Uh-huh.
He was the governor of New York, and he ran in the 1920s. He lost, and at the time, there was a rise in anti-Catholic prejudice, particularly in the South, amongst the KKK and some of the Know Nothings. It was a reoccurrence of that Know Nothing movement, if you will, that were also anti-Catholic, in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And then you jump ahead to JFK when he was running for office, and the whole paradigm has shifted if you think about it. So when JFK was running for office, the whole discussion was, could he be both faithful to the Constitution and faithful to his religion, given his obligations as a Catholic.
Right.
And JFK talked about the ability to be able to speak within the public square. In fact, one of the great theologians in Roman Catholic Church history in the United States was a Jesuit priest by the name of John Courtney Murray, and
Interesting.
he lived, died in the 1960s. He was an advisor to Cardinal Spellman, attended the Vatican Council, and literally he helped advance the Catholic Church teaching on religious liberty to what it is today. And what they talked about is, as a Christian, as a Catholic, as a faithful person, whatever religion that is, you have a duty and obligation to participate, and your voice should be heard in the public square. And I think, unfortunately, what we're seeing more of today is a hostility to people that are coming from a religious perspective, whether it be Christian or Jewish, in some instances Muslim as well.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
that's true. That's absolutely
and,
true.
and it shows how far we've come in the 60 or so years since JF, 65 years since JFK's election in 1960. I mean, it's like the model is completely shifted, and it's as if you're not supposed to speak up if you're coming from a religious perspective. You can let any secular perspective, hold the day, if you will, and
Uh-huh.
it's just wrong, and it's not in accord with the way in which the country is operated and people have generally operated. And I think there just has to be more tolerance across the board. And
Yeah, totally. In
and
in the sphere of Christianity, in the 1700s, I forget exactly around the time, but the Quakers essentially were that they were not popular in the 1700s, but they were pushing for, equal rights, no matter, what background you are. It was they were basically pioneers of the anti-slavery movement.
Correct. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So I know we could go on this topic, but
Yes.
I'll end it here. Just I think that we're kind of at an interesting inflection point within the history of our country,
Hmm.
and certainly we're seeing more of an upturn. At least statistics are showing with some of the younger generations are kind of turning more towards religion and more towards a traditional religion, both within Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Yep.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next decade or so. But I think the word for the day is tolerance and appreciation of people's viewpoints.
Most
Across the
definitely.
board.
And you mentioned about making sure that these houses of worship are protected and secure. So it's reassuring to know that that's happening in Rockland, especially in places where there's a decent number of people congregating.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely, and we'll do that across the board. I mean, we have a really good, our cares unit, which is our cultural and resource and educational unit within the police department. And so basically, we've identified all the churches, all the synagogues, mosques, schools within the town. Our police department has a relationship. We have a communication system. We're able to get information out when threats do come from a nationwide perspective through the Office of Homeland Security. We have ongoing relationships with all of these groups. When churches or synagogues or the mosque have events, the police are aware of it. We know when we want to have a stepped up visibility, in some of these areas, and certainly with the conflict that's taken place in the Middle East in the last year or so. We've been stepping up our presence at different locations anyway, and literally this dates back, well earlier in my tenure as supervisor. Our former Chief McCullough, actually created this group, the CARES Unit, and it's a dedicated group of officers led by a lieutenant through our community policing, and it gives us the ability to be able to develop these relationships with all of these organizations within the town. We have like 57 or 59, religious locations known to the police department, and we make sure that we reach out and we make sure we're visible. So when there's different celebrations and ceremonies taking place, and it's incumbent on us to do this, because wherever you have large groups of people, you want to make sure that the police, are omnipresent and available, because unfortunately everything from medical episodes to disputes can take place in those areas very, very quickly.
Yep, I know it well. At the last Stony Music Fest that we did before we moved over to Rockland Music Fest at Clover Stadium, and that's happening September 27th. But we, mass gathering permit and all of the documentation and everything, and we never had to use it. Well, on the very, very last festival, a woman had an epileptic seizure. She was sitting right in front of me, and it really threw me for a loop. But thank goodness that emergency response, they were there within minutes, and thankfully she was okay. But it was, it made me realize again that those particulars need to be front and center and available when necessary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Tom, let me give you a quick update. Just we're coming, we're at the end of the summer. Today's the first day of school. The day we're taping this, Tuesday the 2nd. So first day of school, across the town. And that brings a lot of changes within the town itself. We had a great summer. We had our longest summer concert series ever. We played every Wednesday up through last week. So went all the way through August. We had some wonderful acts that came in. Tim Urban, who was actually a finalist on American Idol, performed a couple of weeks back. We kicked it off, with the Mighty Spectrum Band with our fireworks in June. And literally some weeks we had multiple concerts where we had them at Lake Nanuet on Wednesdays. We had 2 concerts over in our Congress train station park as well. We had a bonus concert that was supposed to happen in West Nyack, but with the construction, we moved it over. And next summer will be the same deal. We'll have multiple concerts. We'll have several concerts down in West Nyack. The work will be done by the end of this year. So the newly revitalized Hamlet will be, we've hosted concerts there in the past. We're going to have at least 2 next summer down there in July and August. We're also, have them over the train station park and every Wednesday up at Lake Nanuet. We're also working on bringing in the West Point Band as to a special celebration that's going to be tied to the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So we're really looking forward to that. We're trying to finalize that date. And then for the fall now, and aside from all the, the concerts, we just had we had a great pool season. We're blessed to have 3 pools.
Nice.
We were able to keep our pools open by and large throughout the summer. We're always in need of lifeguards, but the pool season is now over. Come September, a lot of our lifeguards have gone back to college. Kids have gone back. Some lifeguards are in high school. So literally, the pool season is basically wound down. We'll start to winterize and close out the pools in the coming weeks. And we move into some of the fall activities. We had, as I said, we had some campouts and the concerts. It was just a wide range of activities. And what I'm excited about is, we're kind of coming to the end of our major construction project over at Germans Park. That's a full turf field complex upgrade. We were able to get almost $2 million in state funds for that. And so we're about 2 to 3 weeks away from the final work on that. We'll have some type of opening in October. We've already had some outreach from. We're looking at a number of the sports leagues that are going to be moving their practice fields and the game fields over. What's great about it is the West Nyack Little League. All three of their infields are their town fields, but we did all three of the infields as turf infields, and they're actually applying to host the state tournament next year, and they think they have an excellent chance because of the quality of their facilities. And in addition, in that complex, we have the full turf fields up above with the softball, the baseball field, and the multi-purpose field. All new LED lights, 100 new parking spots, a whole bunch of other amenities and upgrades. And the ability basically to walk around that entire field complex now, which is over a mile. If you walk around all of the fields down around the pool. And the people in the town will have that ability to be like a whole nother walking trail and path,
Right.
within the center of town. We did that, but frankly, when we redid Zucker last year and earlier this year, so Zucker has over a mile long walkway, right within the town fields as well, and so we're really excited about Germans because this will be opening up. We've actually had outreach from a couple of the local colleges that are looking for additional practice fields. And again, it's a full turf, multi-purpose turf field. It's going to be home to the Clarkstown boys and girls lacrosse, the ability for Clarkstown soccer to play games there, the New City Rams, as well as the ability for some of our local colleges. And I don't want to say which one, but one of the local colleges has contacted us numerous times, and their local universities within the county that is looking, to potentially rent the football field. So, for practices for some of their sports teams. So it'll be a revenue generator aside from everything else. The other thing is, in talking with the folks at the West Nyack Little League, they told me they had something like 97 additional games this Little League season. It was their first season. It opened up. We were able to open up by April with the turf infields. So they had 97 more games they played that in the past would have been canceled because the fields were playable, where in the past they would not have been.
Well,
so
is that the AstroTurf or what's?
So these are artificial turf fields that infields that we put in. So not the full field, but the infield. And so they drain. They're literally, you dig them up and you have a rock gravel base with under drains. So they drain very, very quickly. Within 5 or 10 minutes of the rain stopping, the fields are literally dry with some heavy rain. So we had a couple of weekends of where they had an inch or two of rain, and these fields, everywhere else where there were natural grass fields were canceled, but they were able to go on with their games. So. Lake Nanuet, we're also doing those fields. They're going to be finished up within 2 weeks. So their 2 infields will be done. West Nyack infields are done. We did the turf field over at Zucker, and now the Germans complex will open up. So it's a big deal for the town. We were way behind where all the other towns were, so I'm happy to see that'll be finished up this month, and those fields will cycle in and they'll start being used by lacrosse and football, and it'll just be a great thing for the town. And just last on this, Tom, when I talk to new residents, and I have the ability to be able to talk to new residents, whether you bump into them at street fairs or they contact the town, or you see them at the library, or whatever events you might bump into people at. And I'll often ask people, as they have selected to move into the town, why did you pick Clarkstown? And I'll always hear the same things. They'll say, great schools, excellent crime stats. The policing is unbelievable.
Hmm.
and then the ability to have like these resources. And we kind of lag behind, some of the other towns, but we've got the three pools and we've got loads of parks and fields, but we didn't have any artificial turf fields up until last year. And so we've been able to complete that and basically overhaul. And we were able to get millions of dollars in grant money to help us defray a portion of the cost on this. So it's not only is it great for these leagues and for the kids, and
Hmm.
it's great for us to be able to have the ability to recruit new residents in who see this as a value add here within the town. So we're delighted about that as well.
Right, without a doubt. Now, over the years, and anybody that listens to the show knows that I'm into the geeky, nerdy pop culture stuff, and one of those things involves video games. And there's a very famous video game. I know this sounds weird, Supervisor, but just bear with me. I'll explain in a moment. So there is a very well-known video game series called Sim City. And it's basically the idea of being the person that kind of builds up a municipality. And I used to play it for several years. And what I found is that there was a natural progression for certain things that needed to be installed first before you can do other things. Example, obviously, sewage, pipelines, electricity, all those things that everyone needs. And then the cherry on the top was always things like, for instance, the parks, recreation, and AstroTurf. That was actually an option inside of these video games.
Yeah.
So my question is that is AstroTurf and the parks and recreation, is that sort of how the natural progression of growing a village, town, or municipality happens? Is that a typical path, or is it just happenstance depending upon, let's say, what's needed in a given several years?
Well, I'll tell you that we've added several parks, but we're a fairly mature town.
Hmm.
Our field, the structure of our fields, were basically done in the '70s and the '90s, and
Okay.
so my in my tenure, I've basically redone all of our community centers, all of our pools, added for the first new parks in 30 years in the town, Bear Swamp Nature Preserve, and we've gone systematically about trying to find grant funding and just budget in our capital plan to redo playgrounds and to redo that level of infrastructure. So the artificial grass, what you're calling astroturf, but the artificial grass, that was kind of beyond us to a certain extent because we just had so much other infrastructure we had to get to that was woefully inadequate that had to be fixed. And thankfully we were able to do this now. And you're absolutely right, it's not every community has it. In fact, many communities don't.
Yeah.
We do now. And frankly, it's a home run for us, being able to do it. But you're right, it's something that is a value add, and it's something that it took extra time for us to get done. But part of it is we're blessed with an abundance of an embarrassment of riches, if you will. We have four. Some towns don't have any or have one.
Hmm.
We have four community centers. We have three pools. You
Yeah.
know, and so that's there's a lot of effort and a lot of money that it takes to maintain this
I was gonna
and to
say,
do the
man.
work here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's definitely a value add. And then I guess the other thing that we're excited about, Tom, obviously, there's been really great progress in downtown West Nyack. The road has been paved with the base course pretty much from Western Highway up to Village Square. They're working this week as we speak. They've put you'll see the road has kind of been shifted over in front of the Lulu's shopping center, and they're actually working on the sidewalks in that shopping center and the new parking. In the past, people would back right out into the road. The
right.
road's been shifted over about 15 feet or so, 18 feet, and they're actually making angled in parking, a segregated parking lot. and they're actually going to have some wonderful outdoor seating for all of those stores and restaurants there. I know the owner of Pizzarina had run into some financial difficulty, and
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately, he closed. But he's actually selling his business, from what we're being told.
Gotcha.
And there'll be an announcement about that, and a new operator opening up in fairly short order. And when they open up, they're actually going to have an 8 foot wide, um, pavilion outside where they can actually have tables on the sidewalks. Lulu's is actually going to have in front of their store about 12 to 1,400 feet of outdoor dining space, and the town is actually changing the zoning, which will there's a little clause in the zoning that requires additional parking for outdoor dining, and we are removing that in several of our hamlet centers based upon the additional municipal parking the town has put in. So we're adding well over 110 parking spaces in all of downtown West Nyack. It's going to be much more walkable. There's sidewalks on both sides of the road, and there's on-street parking. There's also 3 new municipal lots, that are strategically placed around the town. I can tell you that, with some of the growing pains of this, the construction basically started early this year. It was supposed to finish up by February of next year, and we are well ahead, and will be substantially complete and finished with the project by the end of the year, if not a little bit sooner. So it's really going to start coming into focus. The next 2 months, you're going to see a lot of the finish work now with the new decorative light poles that are going to be coming in, the fountain and the clock and the flagpole that'll be down in that new parking and green space across from Lulu's and that shopping center, as well as the pavers, that are going to be going up and down along different parts of the roadway.
Right.
And there'll be some landscaping that'll be planted, by October. So it's coming into the home stretch, and it's going to be a real shot in the arm. I can tell you, I was talking with the owner of the ice cream place, down there, Cone Zone, and they were, we were, chatting, and they've got outdoor tables now with a pavilion. And they were a little concerned initially about the parking, but they've got, we've added the municipal parking across the street. They've got on-street parking in front of them, so they ended up losing 2 parking spaces, but they literally gained an entire lower patio that can, sit about 20-25 people. And I can tell you, I've been down there throughout, the last couple of weeks since the patio's been done, and there's people there all the time sitting out on the new tables and enjoying ice cream on a day like today.
Mm-hmm.
As we're taping this, it's 80 degrees and bright sun, and certainly one of the delis down there, they're actually going to start nighttime service because they have an outdoor patio now that they never had before. And they're actually, they're going to start, and they've put several tables out, and they're very excited with the ability to be able to, instead of just serving breakfast and lunch, they're now going to be serving dinner and staying open later, particularly seasonally. And they're crowing about it because it's a whole new opportunity that was not part of their business model, and now they have the ability to be able to do outdoor dining. So I'm thrilled. We're going to see this as a real shot in the arm to some of these businesses down in the West Nyack area, but not just there. Where we had additional parking that we did years ago in Valley Cottage and in Congers. So we're taking this restriction away in our downtown hamlets where we have enough parking, where it will enable the businesses to be able to utilize, put a table outside their place and not have an additional have to provide additional parking where the parking has been deemed sufficient. So most of our hamlet centers, West Nyack, now we're adding, with all this extra parking, it's going to enable this outdoor dining, which is going to be, as I said, a real shot in the arm to these businesses.
Excellent. Yeah. And business centric and retail, service to service businesses, all sorts of business. They help to bolster the economy. It's, as they said in a very famous movie, it's all a circle, right?
Yep, no, absolutely. So it's literally we're into the fall now, Tom, and I'll just finish up. I mean, we're excited. A lot of things, coming to fruition with some of these projects, finishing up, in the next couple of months. Our paving season, we again paved about 25 miles worth of roads, town roads. We're well ahead of schedule on our town roads. That could be a whole show in and of itself. The
Right.
distinction, some of the worst roads around any one of the towns are, even though they're within the town, you don't have any responsibility to be able to do anything with them, are the state roads. And we're, Route 303, Route 9W, Route 304, Route
Yes.
59. Some of these roads are a mess within the town, and we're after the state to try and do something with them. But the town roads themselves that we have responsibility for, we have just over 300 miles worth of roads, and
Mhm.
we have gotten ourselves to a 12-year paving cycle. We're on year 10 of the 12-year cycle, where every one of those 300 miles worth of roads, we're literally down to the last 40 miles or so of those roads that need to be paved. Typically when you resurface a road, it can last 15 to 20 years. When I took over as supervisor 10 years ago, we were literally on a 30-year paving cycle. We had some really badly conditioned roads that were in very bad condition that were town roads, and most of those have really been addressed, and we're just down to the last handful, before we circle back around on the next round of
Yeah.
resurfacing. So again, it's been a very productive summer, a very productive year. We've got a lot going on, within the town, but we've got a lot of capital projects that we're finishing up, and we'll take a deep breath. You never stop, but
Right.
this was a particularly busy year. I mean, we redid the town, tore down the old Epic building behind the police department, and built a brand new warehouse. Got some funding for that. As I said, paved 25 miles worth of roads this year. We've got the West Nyack revitalization coming to an end, and then we've redone our turf fields. Plus, we did the Mark Woods Park, which I think were there for the opening,
Hmm.
where we completely redid that. And then very excited because come the spring, we've acquired some property in Central Nyack, and we've been able to get over $1.5 million in grant funding, and we're going to be opening up a brand new park next year right across from the Central Nyack Community Center. Where we're going to have a splash pad and a playground. It's never been there before. It's one of our key downtown hamlets, and it really needed a park. So that's some of the future stuff, but a lot of stuff we're finishing up right now, and really, it's been a very, very busy and productive summer.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys deserve to breathe easy a little bit once all of everything, all the planning and the getting ready for next year comes into play. So hopefully that will be something that you can. I mean, it's a heck of a summer. I mean, and I
Yeah.
think all the towns, as we're doing this series where we're reporting in on the results, I think all the towns are going to have some pretty positive news about the activities. So Town of Clarkstown Supervisor George Holman, thank you very much for being on today's edition of AM Rockland News.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. And I just, again, we have our 9/11 ceremony next week. It'll
Yes,
be on September 11th at 5 p.m. at our monument. We invite everybody to that, and
very
then we also starting that next Friday, a week from Friday, we have our lunchtime concert series, which we've actually moved to September into October. So every Friday over at Kevin Landau Park, the town will have its will have a lunchtime concert that kicks off, going from roughly 12:15 to 1:45,
Mhm.
kind of a cappella groups right in the park. And we encourage folks, grab a lunch on a Friday and come on out starting next Friday and running all the way through until Columbus Day weekend in Kevin Landau Park.
Awesome. Well, I will try to get some coverage out there for the September 11th ceremony and the Friday thereafter. So thanks for giving us the heads up on that.
Great.
All right, so we'll see you next time. If you're available anytime next week, give a holler. Happy to have you on the show as always. So once every week or two, I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll do, Tom. Looking forward to it.
All right, appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for tuning in to today's episode of AM Rockland's News. And let's just name off of our sponsors real quick. So thank you very much to the following who keep us going. Let me just bring up the list because it's on my screen almost every day. I want to make sure everybody is thanked and continuously. So we have Yahoo Fence, Dana Pest Control, Easy Town, Kobe Sushi, located in New City, new music lounge that opened on May 31st. They're awesome. 202 Cannabis in Garnerville, Susan Bover from Coldwell Banker Realty, Lauren Molino Muller from Howard Henner Rand Realty, Whole Shot Bagels, 99 Signs, the Workforce Development Board of Rockland County, Clean Space Maintenance Management Company, and Ivy Rehab Physical Therapy. These podcasts are available several times a week. You can head over to rocklandsound.com to check them out on Apple Podcasts. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. As always, my name is Tom Oster. Thanks for joining us on the show today, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.